A message from our sponsor, Infinity Satellite and Software Solutions, LLC. Barge tracking is becoming more and more important to companies, especially in low river stages and bad weather. Track and manage all of your valuable assets in one source with our comprehensive and easy-to-use web-based mapping and management application. We offer a complete end-to-end solution of products, software, services, and support. We offer solar GPS trackers that are intrinsically safe with Class 1, Div 1, and Zone 0 certifications. Our portfolio of GPS satellite products are designed to fit your every need. For vessels, we can automate their ICWW fuel waterways tax by state. The system automatically calculates the taxable river miles traveled, and with just a click of a button, a customer can run an accurate report and pay their taxes. Please check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, or at our website, www.infinitysss.com. Welcome back to Between the Levees. I'm joined today by Captain Jeremiah Beauregard. I knew him during my time dispatching canals. He was with Deloach and now is with Intertug. There's a lot more to him. He and I were pretty close at the time as far as a dispatcher and a towboat captain could be, I suppose. But all that to say, Birdman, welcome to the show.
How you doing this morning, Captain Tim? This afternoon, correction.
Doing pretty well, man. I'm glad we can get this lined up finally.
Oh yeah.
Birdman also made an appearance briefly on my first attempt at a live stream with Captain Kyle Fenning. He and Little Bird popped on for a little while, but anyway, let's get into this, man. Tell me, sir, where were you born?
I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Just more or less grew up in one hell of a, I'm gonna just say it, one hell of a place, but it built a lot of character. It taught me a lot, especially at a young age.
Well, what was life growing up in Baton Rouge?
Oh, man, it was interesting because there, even back then, I mean, even still to this day, there ain't very many good places of Baton Rouge. I mean, that's as well as I do. I'm sure you're from around that area. That it's just about like a war zone nowadays with the crime the way it is.
Well, what was it back in the day?
Oh man, I grew up in part of I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Gardier Lane. I grew up down there on Starboard and Skysail down there, and it was I had a lot of friends and everything. Taught me a lot of it taught me a lot of being humble. Brings me back to it's one of those things I tell the guys all the time. If I can do it, I know you can do it. I know for a fact that I brought myself from where I was, because I was, even when I first started on the boat, I was living in Gardier. If I can do it, I know you can do it. There's no excuse. And it's a it was a rough upcoming, but the thing is, I really had a good set of parents. My dad and my stepmom, they done a lot for me. I graduated school, thank God. I was like skinning a cat there almost. And I say that my dad's in the background, just I know he wants to say something, but I did, and it was fun. I enjoyed it, but it was definitely rough. It was just one of those things you really had to watch yourself out there most of the time.
And what did your parents do for a living?
Well, my dad, he was actually a captain for a little part of my life. Worked for a company, um, an environmental service. I'm not gonna really say the name, but he worked for an environmental service, and he was the vice president of the company for a good while. He hung it up for a little while, took a couple years off of work, and did a lot of things around. And then he now he's a powerhouse operator. Now he's going up even further, and into the plants and everything. But his boat captain was like he had a license to drive like crew boats, like big OSVs and stuff like that. It wasn't, six packs and towboats, and he did move quite a few. There was a couple of big boats. I never got to I stepped foot on them, but never got to depart with him, But I did get the luxury of seeing a couple of them and going on them. They were some really big boats, and it's crazy, man, because he worked at when I was real young. He worked right in Plaquemine, and we lived in Baton Rouge, and my mom would literally go pick him up and drop him off at work every day. I passed over Port Allen locks for a good part of my younger childhood. Never knew what it was until I first stepped foot on a towboat, and he's like, "We're going into Port Allen locks." I'm like, what the hell is Port Allen locks? And they had to pull the old go get the key from the captain for the lock thing on me, of course, That's everybody's gotta eat that every once in a while. And I see it and I'm like, oh my God, I've passed this thing, it's right here, right here. And it was pretty neat, it looking back at it, I don't know how I never met anybody in this industry. I got a couple of uncles that's distant that have boats literally named after them that were, big time captains, but I think I've only met one or two of them.
And you mentioned a stepmom. What did she do?
She was she worked as a chef at the school. She worked at Highland Elementary. Retired from it. I mean, she did it for a long time, and I can't speak enough for that woman. I love her to death. She's been. I know we've had some rough years, and I know you're gonna see this video, Mom. And I'm gonna be honest with you. You done a lot for me over the years. I gotta thank you for everything because they put me through some hard times. My real mom, my stepdad, my real mom, same story. They drove trucks for a living. It's complete polar opposite of what I do. And they did all right by me too. They were really good. I got blessed to have two really decent sets of parents. It wasn't, a bum or anything like that.
Did you tell me your grandfather was on the river too?
Yes. So my grandpa and I had an uncle Ollie that I'm finally getting to meet this man. Never met him before, but him and my grandpa, and they were all adopted. They lived in a foster home. There was like three brothers and the foster dad all worked on a boat together whenever they were young. And that's what they did. They were they were running salt. As ironic as that is, it's just funny as hell. It was like a full circle. He was the one that got me the job, as a matter of fact. He tells me I had down on my luck, man. Got out of school, really didn't have no guidance on where the hell I was going. Just more or less chasing my own tail and being an idiot. And I was a rail car mechanic before I did this. I did it for about 6 months, sandblasting and working on rail cars, and ended up having just about borderline heat stroke. Pretty decent one. Was actually, no exaggeration, was literally sleeping on a park bench 2 days before I stepped on a boat. Me being prideful, not wanting to take help from nobody, and I went by my grandpa's house, and he says, "Man," he said, "Why don't you go get on a boat?" What the hell you mean? Go get on a boat? And he's like, "Man, I know a guy down the road, and he brought me down there, and he introduces me to old Tommy Payne. I don't know if you ever heard that name. Yeah, that's a hell of a man there." And he says, Tommy Payne told me, he said, "Well, be at the office first thing in the morning." I show up there first thing in the morning, go get a drug test and all that, and I get back to the office, turn on my paperwork, and he's like, "All right, you got your bags packed? You ready to go?" Like, no. I mean, put me on a boat the same day, and I ended up on a boat all the way out in Chocolate Bayou, going to Victoria, Texas. And I come home that first trip. It was like 31, 32 days my first trip, and my grandpa passed away like not long after I got in. So I hung on to this job, and I was close to him, but we come from very poor lineage, it's slowly getting better, family wise, everybody talks about generational wealth. Well, hell, that must have skipped my family. I don't know where the hell it went. It didn't come here. But it wasn't much that the old man left me, my grandpa, and I seen this as, I say everybody's put on earth for reasons, and God takes you when those reasons are done, you teach somebody a lesson, whatever it may be. And I to this day I still believe that he gave me the guidance that I needed to set myself, on a correct path because I worked for Deloach Marines since I was 18. And it gave me a chance to get my brother out. He was going down a hell of a path himself. He was pretty much in the same track as me. I'm not gonna bang on him. He's a damn good kid. And now he's in the wheelhouse. He's almost done with his license. And couldn't ask for a better brother. It's a hell of a sight when me, him, and my dad get together because there's something about to be broke or somebody's going to jail kind of thing. That's an interesting one.
Before we get too far into your career on the water, was there any draw to school for you, or was it just a struggle to get through it?
So, man, honestly, if you see my setup, like I literally have like two or three of these things. I was big into computers when I was in school, and man, as far as reading stuff like that, couldn't deal with. I to this day can't stand reading. I could sit there and listen to an audio book and cruise the canal all night long, or listen to the podcast. I do that too. I was succeeding in everything computer wise, mathematically. I was taking college classes for mathematics, there ain't many things that I mechanically haven't been able to put my hands on and quite figure out, I know me and you have texted back and forth. You know some of my hobbies, and I build a lot of stuff, and I wasn't a very like a book person, I kind of. And I got the opportunity to actually go to college. I turned it down, and like an idiot, I was offered a full scholarship for Johnson and Wales by a company because I was literally developing games when I was in high school. I was even a game tester for EA games when I was in high school. I come back to, it's just not my cup of tea. This ain't something I want to do for the rest of my life thing. And you look for that path, and I speak to people about that all the time, like you got to find the thing that you enjoy really doing. I love playing games, but it's not something that I could do all day long. It would drive you, it'd drive you insane. Some people can nowadays, man. As sad as it is, you know as well as I do, but man, it just kind of beat me out of it, and I started to go to a Votech, and man, screw that too. I don't want to go because they want you to do reading and math and all that. And then, man, take that somewhere else.
Well, you said okay, so you finish high school and you go in, you become a rail car mechanic, and you end up sleeping on a bench prior to getting into the industry. Want to share a little bit more detail about that period of your life?
Yeah. So, everything was, I graduate high school, I move out, and working out of Exxon and Baton Rouge, sandblasting cars and changing knuckles on rail cars, changing brakes, all kinds of stuff. Just if it's on a rail car, I probably unbolted and bolted a new one on. And it started, the company that I was working for started kind of going to shit. I could tell that, things were really going downhill. And well, I ended up getting, I don't know, I was out, it was probably like 5:30 in the morning. Me and another guy, we sandblasted. I think we had like 9 or 12 rail cars a day. I can't even remember. That's just about how bad the day was. It's like they ain't even had a lunch break. It's like 4 o'clock, and it's so damn hot, man. And I start seeing shit, and it's like, huh. Guy comes over and he said, you can get off whenever y'all finish this rail call. Just finish this one up. And they said I drove home. I sure don't remember the conversation of getting back home and shit. But that was my last day. They fired me. They said I worked unsafe, and it's not even, not even a chance. Yeah, you try to tell them, they got to go to the hospital. Well, they ain't want to hear that shit. So I think I ended up being without a job for the better part of about 2, 3 weeks. And it's like, man, I got to do something. I don't like living off of people. I'm not that big on doing that kind of stuff. And so I left, I started looking for jobs in Baton Rouge. Ain't really had any luck. Sold my car, and just one thing after another, and about 2 months after that, maybe a month and a half, I'm pretty much just piddle the post. I ain't got really anywhere to go. Sleep on a friend's couch here and there. And I went to my grandma and them's house. Hitchhiked over there just to go take a bath and everything. Try to stay as clean as you can. Maybe had like $3 in my pocket at the most. And that's how the conversation ended up starting. A lot of family members there. I don't think, my family, because I know they'd have done something about it, but a lot of them really didn't have no idea where I was. They didn't, I'm pretty sure looking back on it, if I'd have probably told anybody, they'd have been there in a heartbeat. It wasn't a lack of family trying, it wasn't that I, made anybody mad or anything. It didn't feel right laid up on somebody's couch trying to find a job, and they're going to work every day, and you're sitting here looking like an idiot trying to find a job. I just didn't like it, man. It didn't make me feel. I guess it kind of took me away from my manhood, what little I had at that time.
So you end up, you said, in Tommy Payne's office. He was with the Loach.
Yes,
And
Tommy Payne and Frank Yoho. And Tommy brought me into Frank Yoho's office, and he says, "This is Jeremiah." He says, "Okay," and he says, "I ain't gonna tell you what I need to tell you. Just make sure he ends up on a boat. Do you understand me?" And then he walked off. He was gone, and I'm like, okay, thinking, well, hell, it's gonna be a couple days before I end up on a boat or something. No, it was that day. Now, let's go. You know, Ended up riding with a few guys, and I was literally right on the brink of throwing the career away, and just a lot of drama, I'm sure you hear some of the stories that happens on these boats. Trey Urban, I think that was his name. Yeah, Trey Urban. He spoke of some of that, and it was still like that when I came out here. It wasn't as bad as he spoke on it, but it was still going on like that out here. And man, I was about to throw the towel in. Never got fired off of any boats. I mean, never literally got fired off of any boats. Just go to work, do what I had to do, and try to find another job somewhere. And then I landed on the Harry Brendel, and I worked under Captain Joe. You know, he was a lot different than any other captain I had worked for up to that point. And he still demanded a lot from me. It wasn't a lack of work. Like he wouldn't let me be lazy at all. I mean, he kicked my ass 3 days to Sunday. It didn't matter what it took. You was gonna work, and it was a lot less drama, a lot less problems. We didn't have all the issues, and I ended up staying over there, and I worked there for I don't know, like 8 years or so on that boat. Loved every minute of it. Had a exceptional crew. Always ended up going through deckhands like crazy, but it was always the head captain Joe, the relief captain Eddie Coburn, which I'm sure you may have talked to him once or twice working around the river. He was a character, passed away, God rest his soul. Good old man, couldn't ask for a better friend than me. We were always the three that stayed on the Harry, and It just it became a part of life at that point, everything was acceptable, everything stayed pretty steady, because people that work on the water don't like change. Sure you heard that a million times. And Joe and Eddie kind of took me under their wing. They taught me a lot. I'm gonna have to say, from a mentor standpoint, and even somewhat as a father figure, because I spent a lot of time with Joe on the boat. You got to think whenever you spend 200 to 300 days a year with a man, you know that man better than his wife does. You know, and couldn't ask for a better friend. You know, he, so whenever I did get the chance to go to school, I ended up getting hurt pretty bad, and it took me out for the better part of a year, maybe a little bit longer than that. And I just begged them to come back. I don't care what it is. I just want a job doing something. Just staying at home is driving me insane. Back to the same thing. Just, I hate being. I feel like I'm being a leech at this point. And he told me, he said, "Well, we're going to send you to school. We're literally waiting on you to finish with your therapy and stuff." And it's like it ain't getting no better. I'm not even going. I'm tired of even draining your pocket for shit that's not working. Because doctors do that kind of shit. There's some crooked doctors out there, and there was a couple of them that I dealt with. So I went to school and trained, enjoyed it. Went all over from Brownsville, all up, all across Mobile, all over the place. Up north a little bit and up to Tom Bigby. Pretty neat, as my steersman. The one place I didn't run was a salt mine, which is funny as hell. I ended up getting put on Harry Brindle as the pilot, and recently I just became the relief captain of it. And that's all I do now is a salt mine run. 6 empties, 6 loads, just nonstop back and forth, and it makes a trip go by. But boy, it sure is it's definitely fun.
You mentioned Port Allen Lock. Tell me about that first time going through the lock after you went and found the key and all that stuff. And then fill me in, maybe on Sorrel and Morgan City, the places you see over and over and over again on that salt run.
So the salt mine run, we run Algiers route too. There's times that we do have to go down the Homer route, and through Algiers and all that. But with a 6 pack of empties, man, I'm gonna be honest with you. It takes a very, I don't want to say a don't give a shit attitude, but it takes a bad some bitch to stare a bridge down with a 6 pack of empties sliding. They're to this day, I don't know. We make this joke on the boats all the time. I don't know who built these bridges in Louisiana, but their old lady must have cheated on them with a towboater, because every one of these some bitches are in a bend, sideways, crooked. There is no straight up bridge. There's a bend, within a half a mile of every damn bridge there is. Uh, Morley Railroad Bridge ain't that bad. That's a pretty decent one. Grove State Swing Bridge is, man. Bayou Soul Swing Bridge. I've watched Captain Joe drive a boat for a good long time, and I've only watched Joe ever get himself in a situation one time where he needed another boat to come and get him, and it was at the Bayou Soul Swing Bridge with a 6 pack empties. He literally no damage, none at all. But when I tell you we parked on this dude's house, I was looking straight off the edge of the barge and talking to him off of his front porch. It was right there on the side of us. No damage, nothing done, no damage to the barges or anything. But that bridge, I don't even know how that thing still exists. I have a couple buddies that work at the locks, and they've made the comment to me a few times. You'd be amazed how many people touch up and tap on that bridge. And, that's why it's always broke. When somebody touches it just a hair, just a hair, and it breaks the cable on it. That's why it's always broken. And it brings, Trey Urban brought it up. It brings up the question about these bridges. Why are we still dealing with shit like this? Why is it such a problem? If it makes sense, if you ever get a chance, get on Google Map and just look at, going southbound, look at the canal going down to that bridge. I mean, you do it and you get used to it. But if you ever meet a captain that tells you that it ain't concerned him one bit about hitting that some bitch, that's either a bad some bitch or he really just has no idea what he's looking at, you know. And there's a few of them out there.
Well, fill me in on I guess your first experience coming through Port Allen Lock, and then as a deckhand through Sorrel. I'm sure that's no fun.
No, Bayou Soul, it was hell whenever I first started. Being a new guy, you just caught the shit end of the stick from everything. I remember getting woke up to make the captain a sandwich one time on call watch. They was asses. But going through the locks like Bayou Soul and Port Allen, it was always an experience. Always like doing stuff like that, and it wasn't easy, but it was. You know, life ain't easy. Everybody wants to live though. So looking back at it now, and I remember towards my older years, my upper years as a deckhand, I decked for a little over about 10 years. We used to time each other to see how long it would take us to get through there. We would literally slap the toe back together and have it all tightened up and ready to go, and try to hurry up as fast as we could. And we did the same thing building six packs. It was more of a game than anything to us at that point. We always had a decent crew. It was always fun, but coming out there at the beginning, and it was you always end up getting stuck with some asshole that had an attitude, or just some. This one here is mad because his old lady's cheating on him, so you got to find somebody to take it out on. So you're gonna take it out on the guy that's below him, or you know. And then you got the older guys that come up under, they're in their 40s still decking, and you're gonna tighten every wire they got on there. I don't. You think it's tight, and he go back and get one more click on it, where you're gonna tighten everything up again. That's the way I come up, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed going through the locks and everything, and looking back at it. It's still the same way. I still don't understand, and I've heard some rumors about the locks. But I don't understand why they've rebuilt that lock so many times and they've never extended it. It's still 600 foot, 670 foot, 80 foot long, just enough for you to fit a string of empties into, or a string of loads, just enough to get you in trouble. And then it's ass backwards, the long wall on the north end ought to be on the east side, but it's on the west side. And yeah, you faced with those trials and tribulations, but hell, if towboating was easy, everybody'd be doing it. I've been told that a couple times. Ain't no point in complaining. You just build a bridge and get over it. Well, hell, I'm tired of seeing them bridges anyway. So the Homer route, that's a whole nother animal. You know, I know you back whenever you were dispatching, and I would go through that, man. That place is about the equivalence of an obstacle field if I've ever seen one. There's no margin for error in there, especially in Homer itself. Homer itself is, they made the comment one time that they were going to pass this bill not to let six packs go through there. And I remember the office calling us up about that. And they said, well, if somebody tries to stop you in the middle of the night, don't stop. Hey, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Well, they don't want six packs going through that no more. Well, hell, I don't want them going through there either, but it's my job. I do what I got to do. But it's it'll make a man out of you, and it'll make you believe in God. If you don't believe in God, I guarantee you, whenever you line up coming through the home of twins, with 6 empties, you'll believe in God whenever you get through them because I sent you a picture of it. You seen what it looks like. You can't see nothing. There's nothing to see. I don't understand how, and nobody addresses it. It's just it's kind of like it's kind of like gashing your hand and having a cut, and you're like, you get so used to it and you don't even think about it. It heals up. Now it's a scar. You don't even think about it. Yeah, that's all it is. It's been there so long. Why change it now? Oh, somebody hit it. Oh, well, that ain't nothing new. And then they revisit the idea about, it widening it out, and they always go back to the same thing. Bayou Blue Pontoon Bridge, that thing has been hit. I can't tell you how many times. I've personally seen people hit it. Not on my boat, but watching other boats. It's it's interesting.
Well, I did find as a dispatcher that I got really good at calling y'all in the wheelhouse right when you're going through Homa. And it was a lot of, hey, let me call you back. But what's so difficult getting through there?
It's just so whenever you're moving a 6 pack of empties, any you got to leave yourself enough room to be able to correct for wind or anything. Just a little bit of current to get you just enough. And with that Homa Twins, it's 100. I think it's 105 foot wide. You know, so whenever you're going through it, it's you got two bridges that are built side by side. The wind is funneling through them. You're hauling ass, and I kid you not, they got half-ass bumpers out there, but that's just one of my things. I have literally seen people sitting in that bridge whenever I come through it with their feet dangling off the side of the metal damn. Like if I was to lay up against it, well now you're legless. Congratulations, Lieutenant Dan. Why do we have these problems? Anywhere else I'd understand. Running maybe three barges, two barges. Why do we have 6 packs going through Homa out of all of these places? Because there is nowhere to land. Anywhere you land, you're going to tear something up. There is no bank. There's houses, docks, bridges. You got hospital. There's an actual hospital that you can hit the gate from there. Um, I've had to lay a 6 pack down one time. Didn't do no damage, thank God. My deckhand told me that I landed on about 25 foot. They had a 25-foot span of rocks is where the head of my barges landed. And I was able to pick it up without moving up, forward or backward. And that 25-foot span, that was the thing that saved me was a 25-foot spot where there was nothing at, no trees, no, and the wind, just the wind, the current, the tide, you're fighting everything along the way. Then you got traffic. I these little one barge wanderers that, oh, I ain't got but one barge. Well, I got a 6 pack. If I called up and made the announcement that I was in home, why the hell are you gonna come up in here with me? If I'm having trouble getting through here, what you gonna come and compile your shit on top of my shit for? And you can barely understand them. They sound like that dude off of Waterboy, the farmer, whatever. And I'm I'm just sitting up here like I'm having a brain aneurysm listening to him on the radio, and I'm like, oh my God. And that's the thing that we deal with. You're it's just a straight hurdle. And then if you do manage to get past all of that shit, then you got Bayou the Large. And they love having their curfew over there. That's like their biggest thing. I think they do that shit just to have a break over there. I don't know what the problem is, but you come up through there and you got the Homa Nav running right off the side of the ICW. You're making a right hand turn. Well, hell, you're fighting the current, the wind, everything, trying to turn up and line up on a bridge, which once again is a half a mile from a bend. You're still sliding coming up to a bridge. It's a hell of a place. Shipyards, people. I I don't understand that. And I understand that to an extent why people build their houses on the water, but then you want to get mad when the towboat runs over it. You know how stupid you sound?
For the sake of the listeners that may be outside the industry, a six pack that's up to 600 feet long, 70
So
feet wide.
with my boat is 65 foot long by 32 foot wide. With a six pack of empty barges, at the most, I am 665 foot long, 70 foot wide, and six pack of loads ain't really that big of a deal. Six pack of empties, there is all you're doing. It's like having a near miss the whole day. That's all you're doing is if you have a chance or a way to insert that picture that I showed you of Homa, that'd be awesome. Just to give people the idea of what it looks like. But the whole time you're driving a six pack of empties through towns like that, it's nothing but a near miss. It don't matter how much of control you got in it. You're coming within, so many feet of being able to tear up. They had a damn seaplane land out there in front of me one day in the middle of the canal. It's just stuff like that. You got people there's people riding around in yachts. Like you went and spent, $1 million for a boat and you're driving in a ditch. That makes a lot of sense, man. And you think about it and you say, well, 665 feet ain't that long. Well, yeah, they make 1,000 foot tows and everything, but they're not 70 foot wide. Most of you gonna be with 1,000 foot is 54. And that 16 foot makes a big difference whenever you're coming through some of these bridges. That's just that much more you could see. You try to explain it to somebody and it's like, you go to a football field and look at a football field. Now imagine driving your car with a trailer you're pushing down the road the size of that football field. That's the equivalence of, that's what it feels like. That's exactly what it's like.
For my Australian listeners, that is American football we're talking about. But
Yeah.
anyway, so
I think a soccer field's about the same size, though.
it might be a little
Maybe
bigger.
wrong.
I don't really know. Anyway, um, share what you can about some stories back on deck that you were reminded of with hearing Captain Trey Urban talking. No names necessarily, just some things that happened.
Oh man. You have probably more drugs back then in the fleets and stuff than you could ever imagine. It wasn't nothing abnormal back then. You know, y- Hell, I can't tell you how many people I've seen over the years get busted for failing drug tests. It's unreal. Yeah, especially as a captain. I'm gonna say that. And if I trigger anybody, you bring me your pro drug story to it. I would love to sit here and have a debate with you about drugs. I would love to. If somebody is paying you six figures a year and you still cannot find the motivation to stay clean, you really have a problem and you need to address that problem. There's programs out there that will help. It is not a sickness. You do not walk outside and catch crackhead. I I'm tired of hearing that. But you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying, Tim. I mean, you literally had to specify that to people because people are like, it's a sickness. No, it's not. It's an epidemic. Yeah, it's everywhere, but it's not a sickness. That's a self choice. You don't decide to wake up tomorrow and decide to catch the flu. I mean, you know what I mean? And it was out there bad back then, and luckily things have started to really crack down here lately. It was so bad. That's what really drove me away from the industry. It just everywhere. It was everywhere, and I don't like dealing with them kind of people. I grew up watching, a lot of people destroy their lives with that, that shit, and I put my hand on the Bible, and I could tell you to this day I ain't never done one. Now I may drink. I'll drink like a fish, and I'll hold my tongue with the rest of them. But just yeah, alcohol is a drug, I guess. If somebody wants to argue that, but I just don't see the place of either one of them in the industry.
We're not going to finish on that topic. So tell
No,
me, where's your favorite place to run? Obviously, you've been the salt mine back and forth, but where's the prettiest place you've been?
honestly, the one place, and I could literally hear Joe jumping up and down in the wheelhouse as I say this, but probably my favorite place I've ever ran was the Sounds. That's I come up on deck over there, running 9 across, 12 across at a time. Sometimes, I don't remember if you were the dispatcher for us back then or not, but I can't remember who it was. But man, we moved some shit over there. It was nonstop for a little 2,000 horsepower boat. We ran it, and coming up, I loved it. I loved every bit of it. Driving it as a captain, loved it even more. The Tom Bigby, you could go a whole day without seeing another person on that canal. Just peaceful. No cell phone service, so the office can't get a hold of you. You ain't got to worry about, no phone calls at all. There's nothing, and I don't want to end it on that topic just yet. There's a couple of other things I want to not bring up, but not bad or anything. It's a lot with the shortage. I want to say something about a couple of those things too, if I have a free minute.
Be my guest.
Yeah. So your boy, Trey Urban. If I ever meet you, Mr. Trey, I promise you the first beer is on me. I promise you the first beer is on me because you open my eyes up to a lot of stuff, man, and I appreciate that. But this industry is. I see it, I see it a lot. This industry has kind of ruined itself, and the way Trey said it, you used to hear the stories about people coming up on boats, with their dad and stuff. And now we got all these litigation and the Helm project, we got Helm on the computers now, and that's all it is a litigation thing. It's them trying to put the blame on you is what it come down to, and a lot of people don't want to deal with this no more. Why whenever there's places at home paying $15 and $20 an hour, why the hell do you want to stay on a boat making, what we make a day? And a lot of these kids just that's what they are. They're kids. They'll never. I've noticed a lack of leadership, a lot of lack of leadership, especially in like the newer generations. And I'm not taking shots at the newer generation, because I'm not that much older myself. But whenever I come up, you would get your ass whooped for talking about somebody's boat. You say something about somebody's boat, you better get ready because you're gonna get knocked out. And these days, it's so lackluster. Nobody wants to do it no more. Just there's no passion left in this job. You have literally drove so many regulations and rules into this industry that nobody wants to do it no more. The only ones that do it to this day is the idiots that are stuck out here, like me. This is all I know. I've been doing this shit my whole life. I have nowhere else to go. There is nothing else for me to do. I honestly, and I say that I honestly don't think I could function normal in a society no more after working on a boat and being gone for so long. I definitely know my old lady wouldn't put up with my ass that long. But they're not. I brought that up to Mr. Z Day back then, and I told him, I said, man, I said, why don't you let me go and pitch a case to high schoolers? Because if somebody would have told me about this shit when I was in high school, I probably would have considered it. You know, I didn't have that opportunity though. I went to a job fair. There were tables everywhere. The only damn thing I qualified for was the Army, the Navy, the National Guard, the Marines and the Air Force. That was it. Everything past that, you got to have a college degree. These kids, there's kids out there that don't want to go to college. Hell, you just got out of high school. I don't want to put up with this shit. And you give them that opportunity. You gotta you gotta reach out there and take that chance. And I told them multiple times that I had no problem literally setting up my own presentation, going to a school free of charge just to help the industry out. To start recruiting some of these kids out of high school, and it's not like you're going to recruit them to drive them over to Afghanistan. You're sending them on a boat and giving them a career. This is exactly what people need to hear. This is not what people want, but it's what people need to hear. It's because there's always going to be, well, he may not take the job today, but I guarantee you, he goes home and sits on it and thinks about it. Well, hell, you know what? Maybe that dude was right. Maybe we do. Maybe I do need to go on a boat. That there's always that thought because somebody did speak up to him. Somebody this nobody knows nobody anymore like that. Hell, had the people in my company come out of Mississippi. We don't even barely hire people in Louisiana anymore. I don't understand that.
Interestingly enough, I went to my nephew's high school graduation in Slidell, I don't know, a couple of months ago, last month.
Yeah.
And one of the people, because they had listed what college they're going to, what they're looking to do. One of the kids, I didn't get to meet him, but it said maritime industry.
No
And I
kidding.
was like, I want to know how he found out. I want to know what drove that. But like I said, I didn't get to find him or chat with him about it. But
Yeah.
it was neat to see.
And that's the thing. We need to get that out there. You have so kids, and I say that because I've met quite a few of them. Kids that have come up under these captains now. You have brought up a whole generation underneath this new, regulations and policies and all this bullshit that they have come up with. That you have made people that would be generational towboaters literally hate this shit, and that nobody wants to do it no more. If I seen this job take my dad away from me every, like for a month at a time, and then he only come home for 14, I mean, yeah, those 14 days are great. You're gonna cherish every minute you got with your dad anyway. But boy, you're sure gonna hate that damn job, I guarantee you. If you understand what I'm saying, it's stuff like that that people, you have, like Trey Urban said, I'm gonna refer to him a lot because he put a lot on my mind, and I literally got a little bulletin on my phone. That's what I keep looking at it for, of things that he said that, that I wanted to expand on that people need to open their eyes up. You have bred a whole generation of potential towboaters that, generational to really just despise this shit. They don't want to put up with this shit because they watched their dad go through it. They don't want to do that to their kids, and now you're sitting here like, oh, you know what? That's on you. You did that to yourself. We are here doing what we can, and that's the best we can. And it's really up to them. You created this monster. All this bullshit that y'all put into play, it's kind of on you.
How bad is deckhand turnaround for your from your perspective?
Oh, bruh. So the thing is there's a few deckhands out there couldn't speak highly enough for them. Even ones that work on my boat. There are some out there. I'm telling you, the only reason they're out there is because they got a damn pulse. I mean, the turnaround is outrageous. I'm a pretty you could tell by the way I talk. You talk to me on the phone. I'm a pretty honest and blunt person. Whenever I tell you something, that's the way it is, and that's the way it's gonna be. And we put up with a lot of BS sometimes, when it ain't very often, but there is times, we'll run across one of them and it's like they call the office up and I'm like, you trust this bitch on a boat? I don't trust him to tie his own shoes in the morning, and That's the kind of people we get out there, it's the turnaround. If there was a actual workforce stepping to the plate, the turnaround would be exponential. I can guarantee you. But I'm sure at Ingram, y'all are hurting the same way. Y'all have hard times keeping people. It's the same way with us. You know, we're constantly struggling trying to keep people. And you find a deckhand, and I'm not talking about I'm not shooting at my deckhands in particular, but you find a deckhand that's half decent, and he may not be the greatest. He's not the worst. The thing is, you hate to get rid of him just because you don't know what the hell's gonna come after him. You don't know what you're gonna get. We talk about this stuff all the time. Me and Captain Joe, and you're stuck. You're stuck accepting things sometimes. You just got to accept it and get over it, kind of deal. You know. And another thing with the whole industry, I'm gonna speak on this one because I know there's a lot of people that's gonna be like throwing hands in the air about this. But honestly, the pay has not kept up at all out here on this water. I spoke about that a minute ago. The 15 an hour thing at home. I've watched a graph. If you could literally look it up yourself on how much ship captains and shit like that make. The ones that bring the ships in. I'm trying to think of what their name is. Like a river pilot. It's always stayed about 60% of their pay. Hell, we ain't even making 40% of their pay right now. And I told that to Captain Joe. I said, I predict in the next 10 years it'll be a 4-figure a day job before it starts leveling out, because these companies are just straight bickering at each other, trying to get, more and more people. And the thing is I'm not even really worried about the money. It don't even phase me much. I could have moved on to a better company. I could have done a lot of things. I'm much rather work on a boat with my crew, my people that I know. And I enjoy running the salt mines. But a lot of people chase money out there, and hell, I'd rather had the whole family, the family feel to it. That's the way I see it. I gotta be out here with these guys. Yeah, sure, it takes me away from my family, but it's a give and take thing. And that's why I've stayed with my boat as long as I've have.
Well, fill me on home life. Are you married? Got kids?
Yeah, I'm getting married. I don't have any kids, thank God. Old lady's been beating on me about wanting one, and I'm like, maybe down the road, but this will be, you know, getting married. She's a really good and wonderful person. Uh, you couldn't ask for more because, man, there's been a couple of times I stepped on the boat and haven't stepped off for 70, 80, 90 days at a time since we've been together. And she's only complained to me one time, and that was because I missed our anniversary, and I told her I'd be home for it, but just didn't have nobody to come and take my place. So I ended up riding it out, she's definitely one hell of a woman. It takes a hell of a woman to put up with a guy in this industry because couldn't ask more for her. And I love her with all my heart, and maybe one of these days I will have a kid or two. I really have not accepted that idea yet, man. I still like to, wake up and enjoy, just pack a bag and literally just take off, screw asking for permission or, having to get a babysitter or having to bring a kid with you. Hell, if I want to go camping for a week, well, I'm gonna end up in the woods camping for a week. I ain't gotta, you want to come, you don't want to come, okay, fine. Grab my rifle, walk out the door. But once you start bringing kids and stuff into that, man, it starts changing drastically. And a lot of it, is just more of a fear, man. I don't want to end up being one of those parents, that one parent literally has to raise their kid, just because of the way my job is. And I look at it, and I see some of these captains, man, just eats them alive whenever their kids call them, and they've been on a boat for, X amount of days putting up with, towboat bullshit, riding over because of being shorthanded. It ain't even a money thing, and they're, they get on the phone, and I watched one guy, and his kid, he was on video call by me, and his kid asked him, he was like, 8, 9 years old, and so, Daddy, when are you coming home? And he said, I don't know, son, and, yada yada. And they talked for a few minutes. He hung the phone up and started crying, and it's like, man, I couldn't see myself in that position. That's hell, I couldn't see myself having to explain that, to my kid why I'm gone for months on end. I'm sure once things go back to 28 and 14 or whatever, it'll really, that's probably about the time I'll really start debating on it. But if not, then that's, yeah, that's all. I just work too much to have a kid. There's no time. There's no time.
You want to finish there? I got another question I can ask you.
Go ahead, brother.
A handful of captains out there on the canal have come to me and said, "Look, if you don't get me off this salt run, I'm getting off this boat going home." What do you like so much about the salt run? And do you find yourself wishing you could be going all the way to Houston to Brownsville?
I'm gonna be honest with you. The salt mine, it gets old after a while, honestly. Especially whenever you're working. If you're working like a week at a time, a week on, week off, it's not that bad. But when you're working 90 days straight, it's a 3-day turnaround. A 6 pack empties that. If you're no delay, you get there in about 20 hours at the most. And it's a wrestle. You go down the Port Island route, you got to be on your P's and Q's driving empties. You can't be sitting over there playing on your phone and, all that shit, which you shouldn't be doing anyway, but you know how that is. You end up tearing people's shit up because you want to be over there, lacking on a job. And I think that's what a lot of it is there's no downtime. If I'm willing to bet, the miles that, one of those salt mine boats cross, and, the like from a coefficient point, how much, product and everything compared to this and that, I guarantee you it's just about as worse as the river is. And then you get what you get what you want. And I've heard it before with captains complaining about the canal, you running down there, or that honestly, I think a lot of it's got to do with just a nonstop, you know, kind of deal, because after a month or two of it, I'm like, holy hell, will one of these locks break? Like, well, you get a call on the radio like, Bison Swing Bridge is broke, like, woohoo, everybody on the boat, about to break the barbecue pit out on here.
In a 30-day hitch, I mean, on a perfect 30-day hitch, that's what, 10 runs to and fro. It's about a 3-day
Yeah,
turnaround.
maybe 9, maybe 8, somewhere in that neighborhood, but it's it's pretty fast paced, the loads, you get one 12-hour session where there's nothing going on. Other than that, it's just like we was talking about with Homer. It's a near miss the whole way down. You're either right on a bridge, a pile of camps, a lock, Morgan City, Wax Lake. You're always something. And then coming back with the loads, there's a 12-hour gap of just, and that's it. That's 12-hour gap from Morgan City to Bayou Soul Locks. And that's it. That's all we get. Other than that, man, you're wide open. You're chasing the empties, running them down. It ain't like you can drive slow with them. Contrary to what people believe, it don't work like that. And just a lot of captains, I'd rather not run to Houston. I hate that damn place. I'd rather put a toothpick under my toenail and kick that damn door over there than to drive to Houston. I hate all the traffic and everything. Man, hell, I'd rather bring a 10-pack down the Port Allen route than to run into Houston once. Yeah, that's just me.
Well, how much time does it add to the round trip when you got high water in Morgan City?
Well, that's the thing. See, and we don't plan it by a long shot. We don't plan it. Is if it's high water, you're cruising down the Port Allen route. I've literally hit 10 miles an hour coming down the Port Allen route trying to get out of a bend. But nighttime in Morgan City, because of the restrictions and stuff, man. I mean, people will say what they want, but it's borderline crazy to go through Morgan City in the middle of the night with a boat on the side of you that you're dragging along with you. I don't know whose idea that was. Whoever that is, they boy, I'm telling you. Anyway, there's a lot of bad things I could say on that. But whoever's idea that was, that's why most of the salt mine boats don't go down at night. We'll go up at night, but then sometimes we'll get there and it'll be 2 in the morning. Well, hell, now I got to hire a trip boat to go through Morgan City. I could just sit here for 4 hours and wait on, daylight to go through. That's usually what we'll do. We'll try to plan it out to where to make sure that we're going to be there at daylight, but sometimes that shit don't work. You can only move so fast or so slow. And I've literally been in Morgan City coming up on the bridge 30 minutes late. 30 minutes late for the damn bridge. And they make me hire a damn boat to go through the bridge. 30 minutes late. 30 minutes I would have cleared all 3 bridges, but they made me hire a boat just to go for 30 minutes. And I don't know how much that shit costs, but I'm pretty sure it's up there.
It's not cheap. And then
Yeah,
and the Brindle, is it 1,800 or 2,000?
18.
So is she underpowered to some degree during high water where you have to get a wire in and a shadow, or are y'all good?
Yes. Yeah, we had to get a wire in and a shadow coming southbound, man. And thank God that they stopped the whole box on the head shit, because that there was, and I'm telling you, I don't know who these people are making these rules. It's like Trey Urban said, whoever these people are making these rules, that I don't understand it. That don't put boxes on the head of an empty, because if you put a rake on the head of an empty, it doesn't grab the water. It just slides. You come around a corner just barreling, going around bends, and the whole barge is everything sliding. Well, with a box on the head, it'll kind of grab the water and slow down the slide. You could counter it just a hair. Well, Morgan City was making us tear the barges apart if we put boxes on the head. And I mean, hell, it was a lot easier to shove that Port Allen route with boxes empties on the head. And I never could understand that. Even as a deckhand, we did it. And it's like, good God, who's coming up with these rules? Let me know, because I need to have a real conversation with this dude. And it may involve a chair. He may need a high five with a chair.
That might get you in some trouble, man. I think it's a federal law. It's regulated by the Fed, so I don't know if I'd do all that. But anyway,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. There's some people that I don't understand how. Imagine making a rule for somebody that does something all of their life. Like literally, I sit up there and I drive a boat 12 hours a day, but you don't know nothing about a boat, and you making rules for me to follow. That's stupid. That's that. Why don't why does that even exist? Why is that even a thing? You come through Morgan City. I understand. The high water. Emplacement. But really, I gotta drag a boat down the side through Morgan City with me, or I gotta break barges. Like, how much bullshit that is. You're creating even more work on everybody just for nothing. For nothing. I never could understand, completely wrap my head around that whole thing.
it was a situation I walked into in dispatch when I first took over canals, and I tried to do what I could to get that changed, and then all of a sudden I leave that dispatch role, and they say, okay, you can have boxes on the head now.
Well, I definitely appreciate it. They said
Hey,
That,
I take no credit for it. I don't know what happened, but after I left, all of a sudden you could have boxes.
the story I was told is they got a new commander down in Morgan City, and he went around to like the assist boats and all that, and asked them about stuff like that. And they said the one thing that everybody complained about was the box on the head thing. I could understand a load with a box on the head, I could understand that 100% wholeheartedly. That's an empty, man. If anything is safer. You hit something with a box rake, a box end of an empty, you're not gonna do no damage to it. You're gonna do damage to it, but you hit something with a rake empty, you're gonna run it over. You're gonna push it on top. It's not rocket science. And I don't understand why it took so long to figure that out. That's the thing that I don't understand. Like somebody was going to sleep thinking that they were making the right decision with that. And I just never could understand it.
And those empties sit up, what, 11, 12 feet out the water?
Yeah, so by the time you put the hopper tops on them, they're so my eye level is 25 foot with my vessel. 27-foot correction. Trying to remember exactly. 27 foot with my eye level on my vessel. They're about, give or take, about 7, maybe 8 foot lower than the boat. The eye level is. So when you look out, if you're within 1,000 foot, maybe 1,100 foot or something with a 6-pack from the boat, it's gone. You ain't gonna see it. So you get people, and it brings me back to this yacht thing. Just because you can own said boat, don't mean you should be able to drive said boat. We got license for everything out here. You can't just go to the damn airport, buy an airplane, and jump in the sky. You get caught on the road driving without a license. See how that works for you. You have a license to drive a train, everything. 18 wheelers, it's just the list goes on. Even forklift operators got to have a damn license. But yet, the Coco Queen, because that was an actual boat, the Coco Queen can perfectly run with no fucking license and run right out in front of me. And here's traffic screaming at him over the radio channel, and he just putting along. You pass by him, and it's like some 70-year-old guy just. It's like you need to learn how to drive. You get him on the radio, and he's like, "Wow, they got all this water, Captain. You could have moved over there." Like, yeah, yeah, okay. Let me make my 700-foot boat move to the right while your 100-foot ass can run right down the middle of the canal. That makes perfect sense. We get them bass boats and all that. That's probably about the worst time of the year is down there in the summer around Bayou Soul, because I think it's a requirement to live in Bayou Pigeon or Bayou Soul. I think you got to have at least 2 boats. 'Cause if you go down there, man, I got family down there too, which is funny. And you go down there, bro, and there's like 2, 3. Some people got 5 or 6 boats parked in their yard, and you wonder, and it's like summertime comes. Oh, well, no wonder. Hell, it looks like a freaking race out here. There's boats everywhere. And they don't understand of what getting out the way means. I don't understand how people ain't got ran over out there yet. But there is no license. And you pull one of these clowns over, they're all drunk and shit. You got a license to operate this thing? No. Never could understand that.
Anyway, Birdman, I thank you for your time today, my friend. I'll keep in touch with you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Tim. I appreciate it, man. It was definitely fun, and I look forward to it, brother.
Maybe I can get you and Joe on here one day together.
Hell yeah, that'd be a hell of a ride.
We'll make it happen, man.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot.
This has been a production of Where You At Studios, LLC.